Hey, so I'm going to do a bit of a voiceover for you here. I'm not very good with doing it while I paint. Um, so I've sped this up quite a bit because this is agonizing to watch at slow speeds. So this is something that I had done earlier, just loaded up with tons and tons of ink on there. And I flooded that with blending solution. So that is what I did. I just loaded it on there and I let it sit for a little while to loosen up. Like you can see, there is a lot of ink on that, but that really worked to my advantage. I'm picking out some hairs. Those are free. Anyone who wants to have one of my paintings, you get free cat hair. Um, but having that much ink in there is great because then I can just slowly maneuver that around, and I can have those nice white spots off of there. I can really kind of move it around so I can lose some of that heavy pieces if I want to or not. So this is how I get that depth in there that people have been asking about is while it's still wet, I will go in, more cat hair, I'll go in with various things and try to pull the ink out of there. So that's one of those face, I think, what is it, silicone? No, it's not silicone. One of those makeup sponges. And I just maneuvered around a little bit with my brushes. So that's what I'm doing there. What I'm dipping in on the side is just the blending solution as well. So if I want lighter spots, I'll do the blending solution. And I'll see the dark parts on the bottom. I'll just draw from that if I want to try to simulate some branches. So what I'm trying to set up is a little background for branches and a little background. Those are going to be just hints of magnolias in the background. So these are going to be budding the magnolias kind of in the distance. So getting a little depth of field in there. And also I wanted to add some color too. So I'm gonna, with my big head, I'm gonna add a little green in there. It's gonna look really bizarre in the beginning, but it works out sort of in the end. Again, don't panic about how they come up in these big splotches, because if you have, like, you saw how much I flooded that that can the oh good Lord, no, what am I trying to say? The paper. There is a lot on there, so it really does dissipate that blending solution nicely into the rest. It does not go away right away. It really kind of sticks around using blending solution rather than the straight up alcohol. See how it's already not having the big spots. I can do the big spots, but that's not what I was looking for here. A little bit of softness. So here I'm putting in some green. I'm trying to make it stand out a little bit, a little more than I wish I did, but you know, it's all right. Can work with it. It's hard to get colors to pop other than what you have laid down. So you see how I'm directly adding it right onto my brush. That's okay. I do that a lot, actually. When I know that I really want that straight color, I don't see the point of putting it into a little dish and then pulling it back out. And then if I have it left over onto my my brush, because I'm picking up color when I'm laying it down, so I wipe it off on that puppy pad. I know I waste a ton of ink, but you know, I don't spend much money on other stuff. I do make up for it in the fact that I do make my own blending solution. Not everybody's on board with this. That's okay. You do what's right for you. But, I went over to another thing. But I find that I use so much of it that I was really resenting having to buy those little bottles over and over and over. Okay, so I went into here. You'll notice that it looks a little bit different. There's some dots down there. That's just, if you're wondering how I make those spots, that's just dots of blending solution. That's it. I really chopped this one to make it go a lot faster. And I cut out parts of it because it's agonizing watching somebody trying to get a branch to stand out. So that's what I'm trying to do. Again, there's a lot of paint there, so I'm just trying to lift it by dipping into either blending solution, or actually even better is going into ink. I don't know why ink pulls it up better than blending solution on its own, but it does, or at least that's what I've found. Yeah, my cat in the background. Sorry. So this does take quite a bit of patience to get in, to get all these little details. I use a lot of little brushes, and I kind of put them in piles of what colors I'm using, you know, my green pile and my pink, so I don't have to worry about cleaning them in between. And then I have these big piles of them to clean afterwards. And I separate them by rounds and flats and all of that. They each have their uses. Really wish I painted this fast. If I could get in closer here, I would. I don't have a great computer, so I'm using what resources I have to put this out there for y'all. Things will get better. This paper that I'm using is graphics, craft plastics. This is an opaque white. They do a lot of things for like various things that are not art related. So you can't buy them directly from the manufacturer, but you can get them on Amazon. And I found that this is a very cost-effective way to get your paper. If if those of you who are looking for an alternative, find that this type of paper is good. It does not tend to stain. I think there's one color, actually I've never had any that does not come off at all, but I think, well, it's definitely better than Yupo. Yupo stains with the blues. So I haven't had any problems with that, and these come by 12 by 12s and they're great. I really like them, and you get a lot for $25, like 25 sheets for, well, like $30 or something like that. It's great. So if you're looking for an alternative, this is a good way to go. While we're at it, just remember to use really good ventilation where you're painting. I'm hoping that everybody's doing that. Use your fans, stay in a very well ventilated area. When I do that big pour like you saw in the beginning, I have a mask that I use, not just the regular mask, but the ones with the vapor filtering mask. Very well worth it. So please keep that in mind. Okay, so this I've really trimmed down so that you're just seeing like a little bit in the beginning of this clip and then a little bit at the end, because I don't know what happened here in the lighting. May have been like in the night when I did this and I was using something, I don't know. But terrible lighting, awful glare, and it's so strange you can't see anything. So this is a little worthless. So I should have cut this all together, but I hate just losing, all of a sudden jumping into something you're like, what happened? So anyway, here is the work that happened in between that you can't tell what's going on. Just putting in some buds and greenery around the buds in there. It looks really bizarre, but still trying to get that. I am not naturally great with flowers. I really, really struggle with flowers. And I think that it's hard to get to work with petals personally with alcohol ink. Because you just, trying to get that soft edge and things is just tricky. I've not figured it out yet. So anyway, I really struggled with that. And you'll notice that when I go through this clip of it, this part, I'm putting in my largest one, my focal point one, and that I go over and over, and I cannot get it right. It just seems clunky, and it's a bummer because I really like the composition right now. I would have been happy just to put in a nice little thing in there onto the right, little bud, and I think it would have been great, but no. I put a giant one sort of in the center, and I really regretted that, but this is, this is what it is. It's art, right? And we can't undo that sort of thing in alcohol ink. So I had to deal with that, and I worked it and worked it. You can start to slowly see the depth in there. You can get a feeling of trees in the background. It's like your eye really fills in the blank of what makes sense. I like to use the sides of a brush rather than just do straight on. Kind of gives it a rougher edge to it. I don't know what I'd do without those puppy pads. And actually, the glass looking thing I'm working on, I like to, move that, my paper around. But I found if you use your hands underneath the paper, you can actually have fingerprints on the bottom of the paper from the heat, because that'll dry it really fast from your hand. So I have gone to Home Depot and I have asked them for scraps, like dumpster diving, but I've asked them for scraps of for their plexiglass in their glass cutting area, and they have pretty decent size. That's a no, right there. That's a 6x6. It's small, but it's certainly big enough for me to do work on with that little piece. It was perfect. So I was able to bring that piece home, and I have a couple of them now that I can be working on and move it around. I have another big piece of plexiglass for my larger pieces, but it makes it really convenient for me to maneuver my piece without having to pick it up with my hands. And so if you're having a difficulty getting those washes to look smooth, that's how I do it. And that's how you can get it. And if you're looking for a way to get it cheaply, there you go. Oh, I see. I always try to block when I put any ink or any alcohol in anything. I do that little cover around it with my hands so I don't splash it onto my paper. I don't know about you, but I have learned that one from experience, that I have splashed and made dots on my paper before that I've had to correct, and that's time wasted. It's a pain. It's possible, but it's not fun. I don't know where that blue came from. That came off of one of the, I don't know. That just sort of turned blue. Trying to figure out what ink magically appeared from, but I liked it, so I left it. Here it is. It's going to be small, but it's not. And it kept growing and growing. Then I was thinking, well, maybe it is starting to bloom, so I'll work with that. I was making such a hot mess of it, I decided to move on for a little bit. Started putting in my dewdrops. So the dewdrops, those are just blending solution. And again, I haven't done these with the store-bought blending solution. I'm sure they're more or less the same. But I use a very small brush for this. Little dots. I think it's fun doing this part. It really adds a little life to it, gives it some ambiance, and it sort of puts you into the painting, gives you a feeling for the atmosphere. You can feel the air. I think that's how I feel when I do it. It changes it from you looking at it to being in it. There's certain things that do that, isn't there? I mean, like wind. I think wind will do that, or just some dramatic sunshine is sort of like that. Some of it. I'm starting to see how that's popping a little bit. I'm avoiding that flower. I don't want to touch that flower. And so those dewdrops start to make the other kind of sparkles in the background make sense. The fun thing with this is it doesn't really matter if you have a lot, because sometimes there are a lot. I mean, like on everything. There's not hardly anything left on a branch that's not covered in little individual drops, or you can have just a few. So you can go to town on that if you want. It's sort of a interesting part about working with that piece. Oh boy, here I go. that's a blending pen. It's a really great tool. I don't use it much. It's a great way to pull up any inks that are down. It really does a great job about pulling up ink. But I try not to use it as in place of my my brushes. It does not do the same work. It doesn't leave sort of an organic feel to it, I think, personally. But it does do a lot of other things in different situations other than this type of painting. So okay, I'm trying to rescue this flower. I'm seeing like, oh, here's a painting I like, and it's going to just be an absolute disaster because of this one flower that is upright in center. And I can't get it right. We've all been in this struggle. I'll try to flat brush. The magnolia leaves, they wrap before they bud. They just wrap around one another, and they've got this interesting shape to them, which, you know, is really trying to struggling. I was really trying to get that going. So here we are. Finally, this is, I played with a little bit off camera, so that's what I ended up with. So thank you for watching and listening. Happy painting.